It's good, bro. I didn't realize how much I took for granted, how important like human interaction is and human touch, right? Um, there's a there's a certain healing, nurturing quality when it comes to just being around people, on an intimate level, right? Hugs, like hugs are so vital, to our growth and development, and our overall health. And myself and a lot of people in my network, we attend a lot of groups and meetings, and there's a level of intimacy in our relationships. Like we speak from our heart, we speak about what's really going on, we get vulnerable with each other, and you know, through vulnerability, there's bonds that are created, you know, and it's funny how disconnected, we can be at times. And I believe that the irritability that we feel, this dis-ease that we feel within us, it's due to a disconnection that we feel with each other, with ourselves, to our higher self or higher, power or God or whatever you want to call it. It's like we've become so conditioned to be busy. We've gotten so accustomed to this ritual, right? And these routines in our lives. And I think what's happening now is that those routines have been interrupted. Like all the busyness, the running around, physically has been slowed down to almost a halt, right? A lot of people are not going anywhere. A lot of people are staying home. A lot of people are afraid to go out. So we're kind of forced to be still physically, right? And I think what happens is that there's a sense of purpose in worrying. We get this sense of meaning in life if there's drama and there's worrying and we got to figure shit out and how we're going to pay the rent, how we're going to do this, am I going to lose a job? And even in relationships, there's a lot of noise that goes on in here. And I think what happens is that when those things are no longer present in our lives, it leaves an emptiness in us, right? We feel this void inside. And in that void, right, there's a lot of issues, unresolved issues. There's wounds that we get in touch with that we suppressed, through our busyness, through our running around, through our worrying, through this crisis, through this urgency that we gotta make it happen, we gotta do this, or our life is gonna fall apart. And it's in these wounds, right, when we begin to sit with ourselves and get in touch with these feelings, it's painful. But the wounds become portals for us. As we begin to sit with these feelings and these hurts and this pain and this fear and these worries that fill us up. They give us they're like our companions, right? This sadness, this anger, these resentments, all these defenses that we've put up to protect ourselves from a seeming hostile world. A lot of us grew up in a hostile environment. There was a lot of violence, drugs, etc., right? So when these things begin to subside, what happens is like we get in touch with this void, right? This emptiness. And then we get in touch with the hurts that we've been running from all our lives. The shit that we use drugs over, the shit that we drink over, the shit that we hop from relationship to relationship over. It's all an attempt to not feel all this shit that we've been repressing all our lives. And I'm going to give you an analogy, right? A person who uses drugs, an addict, people only look at like the drug use. But there's a ritual in an addict's life. From the moment that addict wakes up, he or she is thinking about ways and means to get it, right? How to get the money. Once they get the money, then they going to the cop spot to get it, right? Whether they're calling somebody to meet somebody or headed to the spot or going to get it, there's a level of excitement. There's the level of purpose. They have a purpose in mind, and this whole ritual, right? That this whole addiction entails, when a person stops using drugs, it leaves a completely big ass void in their lives, and they feel empty at first, right? And this void is manifested, right? The way that we fill this void is manifested in other areas, like overeating or oversexing or gambling or whatever it is, social media all day long, and or binge watching shows, and it's just all a way to try to fill this emptiness that we feel inside. But it's in that space of emptiness that we begin the healing process. We heal through feeling. And it's tough and it's painful because we're going through a withdrawal process, right? Especially for us, for those of us who may not be in a relationship, right? May be at home alone, or maybe just home with their child or their children. You start to feel this sense of emptiness and this sadness and these unresolved grief. There's a lot of losses that we suffered, and I'm going to talk about me real quick, right? What I've been getting in touch with lately is like a lot of losses that I didn't fully grieve, right? Like my loved ones, like my grandmothers, you know, my cousin, my uncle, you know, childhood friends that I grew up with that are dead over 20 years, that I never really grieved because I was using drugs, or I was drinking, or I was partying, or I was constantly on the run, constantly busy, right? And now that I've been kind of forced to sit still, right? And this happened to me before when I was in prison and I did a lot of box time. I was able to sit with myself and get in touch with some stuff and have some breakthroughs. But this is something different because it's happening like on a global scale, right? So there's a collective consciousness. There's a collective force happening with us, right? So it's like we're all going through it at the same time. And even though it's scary, even though we're losing a lot of people, I think for me, it's helping me get in touch with stuff that I've never grieved, or I've never gotten in touch with, right? And there's a lot of losses, and there's a lot of grief that doesn't even have to do with people. Like I realize that I'm mourning my childhood. Like I feel like I didn't really have a childhood, right? I was in the streets early, like real early. I was smoking weed at 12 years old. You know, I was stealing from the stores 40s at 12 years old, and you know, holding cracks for the older fellas in my projects real early in life, right? So I feel like I missed, like I never had a prom, like I never graduated from high school, like I never went away to college, like I never went on family trips, like I never did a lot of things that I felt that I longed for, right? And I used to imagine myself doing as a kid, right? So there's a lot of like dreams that I've had, you know, growing up, like wanting to be a veterinarian, you know, or, you know, almost, you know, turning professional as a boxer, like having the skill set to do it and people taking interest in me, but never fulfilling those dreams or those goals. So there's a lot of grief and a lot of mourning that's going on that I'm getting in touch with now, and it's like shit. This shit is fucking painful, y'all. Like, you feel lonely, you feel sadness one minute, you know, and then I find myself busy, right? Chasing some money, getting some opportunities here, and then it's like you sit still, you come home, and for me, it's been raining for the last couple of days, right? So, and I hate the cold, so it's been kind of cold and wet. So it's like I kind of been restricted to movement, right? So I've been forced to like be with myself, and there's a lot of shit surfacing right now. And I really believe in my heart that this is a rite of passage right now. If we could get through this time and do a lot of self-reflection, if we could write, right, journal, if we could sit with ourselves and our feelings, like the wounds become portals. You get what I'm trying to say? Like like these caves, this dark caves that we're afraid to enter, they're really tunnels that lead to some light on the other side of this shit. So this is an opportunity for us collectively as a people, right? As a species, that if we get through this period and this dark time and all this scary shit that they keep pumping at us, right? If we unplugged for a fucking second, shut the TV off, don't look at the news, don't talk about this fucking coronavirus shit, like take care of yourself, right? It's good to take care of yourself physically. Take care of yourself, drink a lot of water, do the whole, home remedies, garlic, ginger, do all that. That's good shit. But I think emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, I think that's the foundation. That's going to springboard into true, overall health and well-being for us. And we got to go through some pain, man. Like, we got to go through the feelings. We got to go through it. We got to mourn. We got to shed some tears. We got to connect with people who we could become vulnerable with. You understand? Like the word vulnerable means, being susceptible to emotional or physical harm, right? So there's a level of courage when we become vulnerable with somebody and we could share what's really going on with ourselves. You get what I'm saying? Like, how do you tell somebody, yo, like, I'm afraid, right? Me coming from the streets and the projects and prison and, a whole bunch of institutions growing up, like, you didn't share shit like that, or you became prey, you know what I'm saying? Or you became a target, it's looked upon as a weakness. So it takes a lot of courage to be honest, to be transparent, to say what's really going on and be like, yo, shit, I feel lonely, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I miss my grandmothers right now. Like, my grandmothers were like refuge for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever shit was not right in my house, I would go to my grandmother's house. Both of them. They always had a bed for me. They always had hot food for me. Like, they nurtured me. They nursed me back to health. And you know, I've been so busy that it's like this shit is forcing me to like sit still right now, kind of get in touch with some shit. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. Let me read this stuff. Y'all asking me some questions here. I'm sorry. Let me see here. Solitude forces us to face ourselves, definitely. But there's a difference between isolation and solitude, right? Because we can isolate too, right? That's another way that we protect ourselves. And the walls and the defenses that we've built to protect ourselves at one time, which was needed, right, for survival, become our prisons in our adult life. You get what I'm saying? So it says here, we would be able to do so much more if we took the time to stop bickering over the most meaningless things. Yep, my hope is that we can ignite a fire in us to love like we've never loved before. That's deep, because I was just talking to my kid's mother a little while ago, and she was saying that she's realizing how much nonsense she worries about, like how much emphasis she puts on meaningless things that affect her relationship and her connection to her family and to our children and stuff like that. And I identify with that 1,000%. Um, we become possessed by our possessions, right? You ever lease a car or buy a car, or you got a mortgage or whatever it is, or you get a nice house and you get all this furniture, but you're financing this shit. It's like, it's exciting when you get it, right? But then when the euphoria wears off, Now you stuck with this fucking note and this bill, right? And then you have this fear that if you don't work, if you don't do the overtime, whatever it is, right, that you're going to lose this shit. But all the while, you're working for things. You become a slave to these things. You become their possession. You know what I'm saying? Like, you become possessed by your own possessions and a slave to this image that we're trying to upkeep. And it really doesn't mean anything at the end of the day, right? Like when you're on your deathbed, right? Have you ever met somebody that was dying and said, yo, take care of my car, man? You ever went to visit somebody in the hospital and they was really sick? Did you ever hear them say, like, yo, how's my Jordans doing? You get what I'm saying? Like, none of that shit matters, man. None of that shit matters. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to have those things, but if it's at the expense of your peace, if it's at the expense of your relationships with your family, if you're working 70 hours a week just so you could drive a nice car but not be present with your children, the real gift is presence with each other. You know what I'm saying? And, it's sad that it takes crisis or tragedy for us to realize, what's really of value in our lives, what's really meaningful in our lives. And the truth is that when we're in a crisis, when we're faced with hardship, we long for that type of connection and support. You know what I'm saying? We start thinking about our kids. We think about our family. A lot of our families are destroyed by resentments and anger with each other, And the truth is that we're all traumatized people. We all hurt. We don't have no motherfucking manual on how to be in relationships. Like, what examples did we have of good relationships? You know what I'm saying? So, let me see here. How do you truly heal from something that you can't change or take back? Can't change your memories and regrets. You know what, Diana? Let me share something with you, right? There's a practice, right? You could change your past. Let me explain this, right? Our imagination is the greatest tool that we have. It's a spiritual technology that we have. It's a creative force, power that we have. We just use it. We misuse our imagination by thinking of shit that we don't want. We misuse this gift that we have to create a life that we really want, right? By thinking and imagining old scenarios, and we keep replaying this shit over and over and over again. And what happens is that we keep strengthening that wound or that hurt. And then we keep recycling these experiences because everything is happening within us. With our thoughts create anxiety in us. Our thoughts create anger. Our thoughts create urges and cravings and lust, right? It begins here. And then it sparks an emotion in us. And the emotion is the fuel that motivates us to act, right? So how do we change our past? We could. We have the power to do that, right? How do we do that? We go back to our past. We go back to a hurtful experience. And then you imagine yourself responding, right, to it in a loving and healthy way. And it's going to take some practice because the hurts are there. So let's say, and I know, listen, we grew up, you're my family. So let's take, for example, a situation you had with Granny, right? Let's say however she hurt you, however you felt hurt, whether you felt neglected, rejected, abused, whatever, criticized, condemned, abandoned, however you felt, right? Take one of the most hurtful memories that you have, that you feel like is plaguing you, and imagine her and you responding and interacting and engaging with each other in a loving way. Like, keep playing that scenario in your head. And that's what forgiveness is about, right? So let's lay down before we go to bed at night And instead of thinking about problems and worries and how I'm going to pay my rent and how I'm going to, like, how about we shift, right? And we start to imagine good outcomes. What if it worked out? How does your life look if it worked out? How does your life look if your bills were paid a year in advance? How does that feel to you? How does it feel that if you had an argument with somebody that you love and you're no longer talking to them, how would you have acted before? How would you have communicated? And then imagine and visualize the other person responding in a loving way. Practice that, right? That's how we change the past. That's how we begin to heal, is through our imagination. And I'm going to get, I don't want to get too deep into the metaphysical part of it, but here's the deal, right? We're creators, right? And whatever we're feeding, whatever we're entertaining, whatever we're imagining in our mind, we're actually experiencing it internally. So the body doesn't know the difference between what's happening in real life outside of here, right? And what's happening within us. The body doesn't know. So the body is responding, right, to these thoughts and this imagination and these emotions as if you're experiencing the shit. So if you're constantly worrying and thinking about bad shit or worst case scenarios and you're full of fear, then the body is going to be anxious, right? Fearful, paralyzed by shit. Like we're causing a lot of harm. So how do we do that? We start to imagine the conditions that we want to be in. And then what that does is that it generates a feeling in us. And when we feel this sense of joy and well-being and safety, which is really important, then we begin to experience that internally. And then from the internal conditions, right, our outer circumstances begin to reflect what's happening within us. And it takes practice. This ain't something that you just do one or two times and I don't see no results, so this shit don't work. It works, because if your life is fucked up, it's a direct result of the way we think, the way we believe, what we keep entertaining, what we keep ingesting. If we constantly looking at shit that makes us feel bad or makes us angry, like, what do you expect your life to look like, right? So we could change the past. We could change the way we feel about the past by imagining more desirable outcomes. If we can imagine ourselves and rehearse what we wanted to do back then. You get what I'm saying? So all I'm saying is that collectively, all of us are going through some shit right now. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of issues surfacing. There's a lot of unresolved grief. There's a lot of stuff that people are going through. And a lot of us are suffering in silence. A lot of us are trying to be strong and mask what, this vulnerability. People don't want to become vulnerable because people don't trust. We don't trust each other. But if we could find somebody that we could speak gut level honesty from that level of vulnerability, there's a lot of healing in that. If you could shed some tears, right? If you could hug somebody and really bond with that person, there's a lot of healing in that, right? So using your imagination for what you want to create is true prayer. That's what prayer is about. Prayer is about when you believe something, right? For you it's true, right? If you believe something, it's true. So when you begin to imagine, right? When your imagination marries the emotion, right? And they're in unison, it's married, they become a union, it gives birth to the physical manifestation. You get what I'm saying? That's what prayer is. Prayer is about marrying the masculine principle, which is the thoughts, and the emotions, which is the feminine principle, right? Masculine and feminine, and then giving birth to a child. That child is the physical manifestation of what the imagination, the emotions create. You understand what I'm saying? So if we're constantly worried and we're constantly anxious, the feeling, then guess what we're going to create? We're going to create a high stress life. And then our life is going to reflect what it is that's happening on the inside of us. So what do? What are some of the practices that we do? Well, one of the things that I do, let me see, I just don't think about, but recently I had to face some stuff, memories and feelings. So I'm in a crossroad. Diana, I don't want to get, personal and put your business out there, but you've been through some shit. There's a lot of trauma in your life. You understand? So, the healing process takes time and it takes practice. You know what I'm saying? So shit is gonna surface. Old wounds are gonna open up. Again, it begins here. You get what I'm saying? Like if we could start shifting our mind and focusing on what it is that we want to create as opposed to what we don't want, we're well versed in the problem. If you wrote a list, if you told somebody, the average person, yo, what do you like about yourself? You probably hear crickets, right? Or you tell them, make a list of all the things you like, all the things you want in your life. What are you good at? What are you skillful at? What do you love about yourself? They'll probably be sitting there scratching their head. But if you tell them what they don't like, what's wrong, what the problems they have, they'll be writing for fucking hours, right? So that's you're out of balance. If that's all you could think about, if you're fluent in the problem, then you're out of balance. If you could be fluent in what it is that you love about yourself, what you like about yourself, what you want to create in life, what are you passionate about? What are your gifts? Like, what are they? Have we even taken the time to even reflect on that? Or do we constantly look at what we don't have, what we don't like, the problems, the men ain't shit, women ain't shit? Like, what is it that we're entertaining? What is it that we're feeding? So how do we nurture ourselves? How do we reparent ourselves, right? Let me say this to you. If someone said to you what you say to yourself, you would probably kill them. Because we're super critical of ourselves, right? You ever notice that? We're super critical of ourselves. We're constantly having these negative thoughts, insecurities, inadequacies. We're worrying, we're sense of urge. Like how do we change that shit? So here's some of the stuff, right? First thing, when you get up in the morning, be still. Drink your water, right? Go use the bathroom, do whatever you need to do, right? But before you do anything, just sit still. Just be still for 5 minutes. Just physically, just be still. No TV, no phone. Don't check your phone, nothing. Just be still, right? And then read something that's inspirational. Get a book. Tell yourself you're going to read, I don't know, a chapter every morning, right? Read something that's going to enrich your spirit. Something that's going to give you some type of insight into yourself, right? Meditate. Take some deep breaths, right? Stretch a little bit, right? Write a journal. Write about what you're feeling. Are you feeling anxious? What are you anxious about? Write about that, right? And then switch it. What's the opposite of what you're feeling anxious about? What if it works out, right? What if it works out? How does your life look like if it works out? What does that look like? What does your life look like if you're healthy? If you lose the weight, right? If if your business that you're thinking about takes off, what does that feel like? Like more than thinking about it, generate the feeling as if it's happening already, and then live from that place, right? Don't think of it, think from it. You get the difference? Don't think of something you want. Think from the place as if you already have it. What does that feel like? What does being completely healthy feel like? What does having financial freedom feel like to you? If you didn't have to worry about money, right? If you had the funds, what would your life look like? Write that shit down. When you write, when you spell, you're casting spells. Write a rite of passage, rites, right? Writing, right? Think about these words. It's powerful. Words are powerful. Thoughts become things. So if you write about your plans and what you really want and you feel it, you generate the feeling as if it's happening. Write as if it's happening now. I'm this. I'm going to Mexico on the 15th. And then you know what you do? Whatever you aspire to do. Let's say you want to take a trip. Let's say you want to go, I don't know. Let's say you want to go to Hawaii, right? Go online, find out what a round trip ticket with the resort, 7 days, however long you want to stay in Hawaii. Find out how much it is. Pick dates and just find out how it is. Plan. Look at it as if you're doing it. I'm going to Hawaii. You're looking it up. Even call the resort. Speak to one of the people at the resort. And what happens is that your mind and your body starts to record this. And it starts to experience it as if it's happening. And I guarantee you that there'll be a lot of synchronistic events that happen that's going to orchestrate for you. Because that's what it's about. That's what prayer is. You're creating. You're a creator. Right? So, and I'm not going to get into some religious shit because people got different beliefs. But the truth is that we're creators, man. You know, if you don't get up and eat, you could pray all freaking day if you want. Oh, well, please, I'm hungry. Yeah, but you're going to have to make a call. You're going to have to go somewhere. You're going to have to receive the help somehow, right? You can't just sit there and it's just going to come out of air. So exercise your imagination. Start thinking about what you want. It's a painful time. It's a scary time. There's a lot of uncertainty, right? There's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of conspiracy theories and there's a lot of stuff happening. But the truth is that I believe in my heart that those who are spiritually aligned during this time are the ones that's going to usher in this new age, man. There's a new world emerging, right? And it's up to us. It's up to us to align ourselves with the side we want to be on, right? So there's a collective consciousness. Everybody's going through this shit at the same fucking time right now, right? So we all going through something. And I believe the survivors, honestly, are going to be them street motherfuckers. The survivors are going to be the motherfucking addicts. The survivors are going to be them prisoners. The survivors are going to be the gangsters. Because we learned how to survive on nothing. So we've been geared up for this shit. We've been molded. We've been prepared for this time, man, on some real shit. But it's also a time for us to go within ourselves and sort through a lot of this unresolved shit that's surfacing. The sadness, the grief, the losses, people that died, mourning our childhood, mourning dreams that we had that we never fulfilled. Like there's a lot of losses in our lives. But I guarantee you that the survivors are going to be the ones who have a sense of purpose in their life. Those are the ones that have hope. Those are the ones who don't give up. Those are the ones that's going to be on the front line. I'm going to tell you something. Them suit and tie motherfuckers that's up there that a lot of people be looking up to. Oh, he's a CEO and he's this and he's that. Them motherfuckers don't know how to survive. You know what I'm saying? They live the protected, privileged life. Them motherfuckers ain't. You know who they're going to go to? You know how it says the last shall become first? Trust when I tell you, we're going to be the ones that's going to be holding motherfuckers down, right? And I'm telling you, if we get aligned, right, the people who start aligning themselves right now, who start doing some of this inner work, who start doing some breathing and meditation exercises and reading shit that's going to help them learn how to create some shit, we're the ones that's going to usher in this new age, man, this new world that's emerging. So everything that we thought was meaningful in our lives, that shit is just being turned upside the fuck down. And like I said before, I've never went to a motherfucking deathbed. I never met an old person who was ready to go. tell me or ask me, yo, how's my house doing? Yo, how's my sneakers doing? Yo, how's my car? Make sure my car's okay when I'm gone. Never. Yo, how's my kids? Yo, where's my son? Where's so and so? Yo, tell so and so I love them. They want to apologize. They want to make amends to the people that they hurt. You understand? People when they dying, man, they regret more the things that they didn't do, words that they didn't say, like yo, I love you. Yo, listen, man, let's just leave that shit alone, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what people treasure and value when they're faced with tragedy. So, yo, shit's looking real out here right now. but there's hope. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I needed to get that shit out because I've been going through it, y'all. Word should be killing me sometimes. But anyway, I appreciate y'all. All right, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. I'm out.